Welcome to Supply Chain Partners Coffee Break with Demand-Driven Technologies, streaming live from LinkedIn and YouTube. Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Sharon Grant, the founder of Supply Chain Partners. Thank you for spending your coffee break with us today. Soon I will introduce our Gold Partner Expert Member, Demand-Driven Technologies. We'll find out more about their company and their excellent offer for Supply Chain Partners members. Then I'll provide a brief tour of our Supply Chain Partners marketplace and professional community. Supply Chain Partners is an award-winning global B2B marketplace and a business and supply chain professional community where you can access experts, innovative solutions, member offers, and free coaching, education, and networking to accelerate your goals for your business, supply chain, and your profession. We're excited to offer you and your team free lifetime membership to join Supply Chain Partners as a corporate member or an individual member. And we welcome industry suppliers and service providers to join Supply Chain Partners as an expert member, where you can access an all-in-one business development and marketing solution, and you can deliver and attend professional development and networking events. We promote our expert members to our global audience of over 25,000 business and supply chain professionals and to our growing community. Today, we are showcasing our Gold Partner Expert Member, Demand-Driven Technologies. And I'd now like to introduce Chris Knapp, the Vice President of Sales. Thanks for joining us today, Chris.
Thank you, Sharon.
Chris, could you please tell us a bit about Demand-Driven Technologies and your background?
Sure. Pull up presentation here. Could confirm when we are live.
Yes, that's great.
Excellent. Thank you for having me once again. So Demand-Driven Technologies was founded in 2011 with some foundation principles we'll get to in a second. We are a global organization with a direct sales force and partners all over the globe. We have headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia, in the United States, and a large office in Bordeaux, France. We are based off of the demand-driven methodologies, which we'll cover in a little bit, theory of constraint and lean. And we were created because of complacency in the marketplace. A lot of the ERP systems that are in the environment are using the MRP functionality that was codified in the early 1970s under 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗧𝗧, and they become outdated. Because of that, they become cumbersome. We find that many organizations continue to leave their enterprise systems and do their calculations in spreadsheets. We believe that there's a better way for organizations to get their planning. I've been in enterprise sales a little over 25 years with some stints at some phenomenal software, major enterprise organizations, Sage, Oracle, NetSuite, Appian, the original ROS ERP, and my last stint was at Infor before I came to Demand-Driven Technologies about 2 years ago.
Excellent. So in your career, what have been some of the problems with ERP projects, that is enterprise resource planning projects and supply chain management projects?
Sure. There are books written on this, and I don't think that I would enlighten anybody by going through 100 slides of those. It's no surprise that if I were to come out and say cost, time, value, and complexity were some of the top things that you would hear from customers and prospects that are going through these different reviews. Ultimately, organizations kind of go down the route. They do these large projects. They may not realize value till after go live, if at best. Time, they're very, very long. And what we're seeing is that time goes on, especially in 2023. With the markets and the economy the way it is, what we're hearing loud and clear is projects need to be short, quick, have definitive value and a high RRR, or they will not hit the CFO's desk. So with that, what we do and what we strive to do at Demand-Driven Technologies is to try and automate the system. Instead of being like the picture before, which was the old Apollo capsule, where you are part of this, you're part of the computer. We want to automate that and simplify your trip, much like SpaceX does today, where you more or less have an iPad that says launch and land and you're on an automated trip. We want to use what we'll refer to in detail in a little bit, demand-driven methodologies. We absolutely want to make it user-friendly because we think that that satisfies a big supply chain issue, an enterprise application issue in the market we'll cover in a little bit. And we're fast to value, right? This is going to be very, very critical. And the purpose for today's call is actually talk about the simulation process, which we'll cover at the end. Can we prove it not before we sign a contract? Maybe we can prove this before we even demo. So we can actually prove the methodology in mathematics and walk away if it doesn't make sense. I think that's a fantastic capability technology firms need to be willing to do.
Excellent. And how has this impacted the enterprise application market?
I pull up a couple different slides here. I think companies, quite honestly, are afraid to make changes. We've heard that organizations, they only upgrade or switch systems when they absolutely have to. There are some phenomenal events happening in enterprise applications, the digital transformations, the moves to the cloud, all the things you hear with AI, ML. Absolutely phenomenal. But as you go through all of those seem to be technology or IT plays. What I hope that my fellow enterprise application companies, in particular supply chain vendors, look at the business cases. Are these IT solutions or are these business solutions? Sharon, I froze there on the screen a little bit. I want to make sure that I'm okay.
Yes, you're fine.
All right, great. And because of that, I think that it's critical. So for instance, the stat on the screen, the last 25 years, inventory turns in the United States have barely increased at all. That is why MRP, MRP2, and ultimately what became ERP even started. We've spent billions on software. Now, granted, there's a lot more complexity in the market today than 25 years ago, but we should see improvements. What that means to me is that we've spent a lot of money on IT and that the business solutions haven't necessarily improved. So that is one of our big focuses in the software and some of the things that we see. On top of that, we had this little period of COVID, and what we saw is that the supply chain world, and we, once again, there are books, there are plenty of presentations on what happened, but just in time is no longer a good word to mention when I go on site. Companies are looking for the buzzword out there called resiliency. And we're seeing these other items, even less trust in the forecast. I mentioned labor as one of the critical issues and the automation. It's not just people on the plant floor. You can't find people to run these old antiquated systems. They don't want to do it. And so the next people coming into the labor force need simple, powerful tools that they want to use. And that is not something that we focused on in the past. We put complexity and what ifs and scenarios and buttons and dials. Ultimately, organizations are looking for simplicity, not complexity, to solve their business problems today. And we'll talk about some more of these other items in a minute.
Great. So how does demand-driven technologies address these issues that you've mentioned?
Mm-hmm. So what we're going to do in a little bit is we're going to talk about the simulation, which is our ultimate solution to start the process. But before that, it's probably best I kind of define what Intuiflow is. We are a supply chain solution. If you were to look at the core modules listed here, you would say this appears to be like a typical supply chain management suite. Yes, we have the materials planning and the finite capacity scheduling with a little bit of difference. Our material planning, while it handles the traditional MRP, min-max replenishment capabilities, it has a fundamental difference in that we have a demand-driven or DDMRP backbone. The scheduling execution, our lineage goes back to Dr. Goldratt. Many people on this call probably read the book, The Goal. They probably have it on their bookshelf. So the theory of constraints fundamentally is the design. In fact, the module used to be called DBR, or drum buffer rope. When you marry those two together, you get what's called the demand-driven operating model. Right? And what we do is we use that model in the sales and operation planning. We take a simplistic view, we bring the forecast in and apply it against our model to see when we're going to have issues out in the future. Now, there's a lot more power behind that, and we can take time to do that at a later date. And I know we've got another webinar we need to schedule. But it's a very, very powerful, and it's ultimately, if you read from the Demand-Driven Institute, where we're trying to get organizations is the demand-driven adaptive enterprise. On top of that, we've got a very, very powerful distribution suite, which gives visibility to hub-spoke models across the organization. So it's a very robust suite that we think is intuitive. Hopefully the people on the call can see the screen. This is a shot of one of the workbenches. I'm not asking you to squint and read all of the details on there, but I bet everybody on this call knows exactly the items that they need to pay their attention to right now. It's obvious. I can take a middle schooler that has never seen our software and they know what they need to focus on just because of the color coding. And it is that kind of power, that kind of intuitive and simplicity that we can kind of automate. And ultimately what we want to do, very powerful inside the material planning, is align our replenishment to true market demand. You can't do that with a forecast, and we'll talk about some of the differences here in a moment. I mentioned the S&OP, very, very powerful. When I talk about what DDMRP is, a lot of the supply chain managers out there, we'll talk about it in a little bit, get a little bit scared because they're so used to having that forecast. They fundamentally believe that it's what they absolutely must start with. And we kind of try and break that habit where we're using actual demand and recent consumption. But we're not opposed to a forecast. And that's, like I said, where we use the S&OP to model out into the future. And everybody has some form, hopefully, of a production scheduling. My guess is if you're a production plant, you have a marker board in your plant. You have some apps. I've seen some of the best spreadsheets in my life are from the production scheduling team. Some massively powerful macros built into those things. Ultimately, what we want to do is get that into a system, take away that tribal knowledge and codify it. So you can see the Gantt charts here and obviously the resource capabilities. Very, very powerful where we're allocating capacity to actual demand and improving, the plant performance. The model of our system is built on improving flow. And there are books. In fact, Dr. Goldratt's daughter, I think, has just released another book on flow is the title. I encourage everybody to read it. If you're increasing flow through your facility, your service levels are naturally going to increase. That is a fundamental driver of DDMRP. By doing that, we can reduce inventory capital. Pre-COVID, we were saying 30 to 40% reductions in inventory capital. They're a little higher now, but I think that's an anomaly. I think organizations overbought during COVID, and so we have a natural, bringing back down to what the true market is. And when you reduce your inventory capital, what that does is it frees up capital that the organization can use on other projects, making them more innovative. That's where we like to, help organizations. In a simplistic view, if you put all of that aside, what am I? I'm a cloud application that takes basic information from your existing ERP system. We've integrated, I think, with over 15 different ERPs. I perform a different calculation versus the in-box MRP and pass what we believe back to be cleaner demand signals, supply orders, distribution orders, manufacturing orders. In the most simplistic view, Sharon, that's what we do.
Excellent. Could you highlight a little bit more about demand-driven materials requirements planning and the theory of constraints?
Once again, those are sessions amongst themselves. So I'm going to highlight some things. The Demand-Driven Institute is absolutely the fundamental and the foundation of your starting point if you were to go beyond the call today, if you have interest. There are certifications in the DDMRP, Adaptive Enterprise, methodologies. But fundamentally, we are shifting from a forecast-driven planning model to a consumption-driven model, right? We are pulling. Product goes out the door, we're pulling another one or the bill of material items in to meet that. We look and concentrate on items that need critical, that have constant material availability. We're decoupling the BOM to try and reduce things like overall lead times. Ultimately, what we want to do is give a much cleaner, near perfect demand signal in the organization. Part of that, when we stop using the forecast or attempt or minimize the use of the forecast, we won't scare everybody. right? You say, well, my inventories are going to go through the roof, right? To maintain my service levels, you're just going to jack up my inventory. That's not actually the case. We look at the items that are critical, right, in the organization. And what we do is we build what's called buffers. If you've read the book, the goal, we understand the concept of a buffer. But what we do is we mathematically put the different regions of the buffer into these zones. I've outlined what they are here. There's actually a whole lot more math behind this. But what we're doing, item per location, is we're creating dynamic reorder positioning. Very, very powerful. We've had organizations that are seeking that alone and didn't know that DDMRP had so much more. So some strong capabilities in the software. So if we were to take and assume that each of these pillars, each of these slices is a day for an item at a particular location, what we do is this net flow equation, which it correlates to the top line. And what we do is we do the math every single day. And when the net flow equation dips into the yellow zone, we tell the system to order back up to the green. Second grade math. This is very, very easy. And what happens is you start to get an inventory value, the bottom, dark line there, that hovers just above the yellow, typically on average. And everybody starts talking about, well, what are all these different zones? What is the red zone? The red zone is your risk, right? That is the resiliency that what we like to work with organizations on, your coefficient of variance, items with long lead times or variable lead times. So we work with organizations on constant improvement on these buffer profiles, and ultimately you can see the items flexing up and down based off actual market demand. So some incredible power behind DDMRP. Once again, I'm not going to spend an hour with you today, unfortunately, going over this. They're much smarter people than me. And once again, their certification processes, we'll save that for a later date.
Great, thanks, Chris. I'm keen to discuss your fantastic inventory data simulation offer for Supply Chain Partners members. Can you tell us a bit more about the simulation process you highlighted?
This is exciting. As I said, I've been at other organizations, and I remember long review cycles with organizations, anything from ERP to product lifecycle management, other supply chain suites. And we would show fantastic presentations. We would use the customer data. We would gather as much as we could to try and build business cases that show, how transformations would change. In the old days, they were ROIs. They became, business cases. Then they were justification documents. Whatever your lingo was. Ultimately, the customers always had a very difficult time believing, even if they were their numbers and helped us generate those. And so proving to the organizations that this was going to work and wasn't just a sales pitch was difficult. On top of that, these projects were long, and you didn't realize value till well after go live. And by then, it's too late. The ship has sailed. You're well into the relationship, and now you need to make it work. And so when I was first talking with demand-driven technologies and I made the move, one of the things that really excited me from the position and the team that I run is that I can work with prospects or customers that are looking to expand, and I can run a simulation with their data to basically model how our methodology would react over the same period of time. So we'll talk about what we need in a little bit. But as you look at the screen, what a customer gives me are the middle lines here, right? That is the demand pulses for an item across a period of time. We'd love a year's worth of data. And what we do is, with some assumptions, and we talk about those, is we show you how our buffers would have reacted. And the math and the modeling that we can do at an aggregate level, at a location level, or at an item level, right? Item location level, we can come and we can reevaluate what your turns were last year versus what we would have generated, what your inventory capital differences would have been, what your service levels, would be at aggregate or at an item level. And it starts to turn into a mathematical discussion at that point, because supply chain leaders, finance leaders know what a point or two improvement in service levels. They clearly know what a capital reduction means to the organization. And then obviously turns. And now you've changed the game. It's not an ROI. It's a justification for doing this project from a rate of return. The nice thing about this is that we will get inventory leaders or supply chain or procurement people that will ask us, they will immediately have an item in mind. Can you open up item ABC and show me what happened in June or July? Because they most likely had a stock out. Something bad happened, and they want to see how our buffers would have reacted, and they didn't tell us that ahead of time. Sometimes our buffers make it, but there is reality that, sometimes you do have a stock. There is no stock out. There is no silver bullet for that all the time, unless you carry massive excess inventory. But we show how with forecasting and adjustment factors, et cetera, we could have reacted differently now that an organization sees how the buffer works and what they could do, looking forward. I will admit that we are most likely in the 95 to 98% of our customers have done a simulation with us before they signed any agreement, definitely before they signed any project. And about half of our opportunities right now, customers are asking us to do simulations before they even spend time on a demonstration of the application. There's no sense in seeing how wonderful the application looks if the methodology doesn't work for them. So that's what our simulation is. I think it's an incredibly powerful tool. I know not every enterprise application package out there can do it, but as an organization, if you ask and they have that ability, it is well worth the time.
Excellent. So what does a company need to run a simulation?
Sure. So it's actually pretty simple. And I actually took a couple of screenshots of some demo data here, right? It's basic inventory data. It's daily demand history up to a year. We'd like as much as we can. We do have some customers that give us potentially just purchase parts or one location. We take as much as we can because obviously we're going to review the results with you. So the more we have, the better. And obviously with the computer, I can run 1 million parts almost as fast as I can run 10 parts. I don't want any confidential information, but if we need an NDA, we can quickly put one of those in place. Because the spreadsheet template is so simple, you can see the fields here that we need. It's your IT team can usually generate these rather quickly. So I don't need anything from the business. It's a very small task for your IT team. And then my team does all the work regenerating, in essence, a full year's worth of simulation and information. It takes us about a week for us to get to a formal simulation review.
Wow. So what does a inventory data simulation cost for Supply Chain Partners members?
There you go. The magic, right? No cost whatsoever. We find so much value in doing this activity. And I will absolutely admit, we have walked away from opportunities because the methodology doesn't work for that sort of industry or that, or there are organizations that are just really well run. And maybe we're not a fit or we can't do the improvement. I would rather know before the project that I'm going to add value. And I think that most of our customers respect that as well before we even proceed. So there is no cost. We encourage it. It's very simple to register for this opportunity on our Supply Chain Partners portal page.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Chris. We are very grateful for your very special offer for Supply Chain Partners members. Now, how can companies learn more?
Sure. A couple different ways. First, on March 1st, we'll be hosting Coca-Cola Beverages Africa. They'll be taking us on their supply chain journey using the demand-driven MRP methodologies and our Intuiflow product. They'll be talking about the results. And what I love about this is that this is customer-led. If you come to the presentation, it is not a sales pitch. It is educational. It is intended for supply chain leaders to talk about how they transformed their business. So please come to that session as well. And it's a wordy slide, I apologize. But our website is chock full of information. We have tons and tons of videos and blogs and white papers, case studies, and an entire YouTube page with customer testimonials that I think tell a tremendous story. And then Sharon, you and I are going to be picking a future date for us to do a little bit deeper dive on the actual application, not necessarily the simulation, and we'll publish that, I believe, the same way we publish this event. And then if all else fails, my email is on the bottom. Please feel free to reach out to me directly or on LinkedIn. I did take the time to put the industries that we've had tremendous success with. If you don't see yours, it doesn't necessarily mean that we don't fit there, but put up some of the biggies.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Chris. I'll now share my screen so I can show our audience how to locate your member offer on Supply Chain Partners, and I'll provide a brief tour of our marketplace and professional community. So we invite you to join Supply Chain Partners for free to access this excellent member offer by Demand Driven Technologies. Chris, thank you very much for joining us today from Demand Driven Technologies. We're very grateful for your fantastic offer for our members.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Right, I'll just share my screen. So as you come to our marketplace at supplychainpartners.co, you'll come to the homepage, and this is where you can get a lot of information about what Supply Chain Partners is all about. So we're a global B2B marketplace and a business and supply chain professional community. You can access experts and innovative solutions and receive free coaching, education, and networking opportunities to accelerate your business, supply chain, and professional goals. So I'll let you scroll down and discover all the information that we have on our homepage, but I'm going to focus on a few things so I can show you how to access that wonderful member offer we were just talking about. So you just click on offers, and this is going to take you to a lot of different offers that are available for Supply Chain Partners members. Now, it is free to join, so you can access a lot of offers for our members. So if you scroll down here, because this is a service that's being provided by Demand Driven Technologies, so you'll see the offer here. So free inventory data simulation with Intuiflow. So I'm going to go into that offer now. And so this is what you'll see. So that is a slide that Chris was just sharing before. And you can come down here and you can find out a bit more about how this offer works and what information that you will need to provide in order to have your data simulated in their software. So be sure to take advantage of this wonderful offer, and you can just simply click on this button here to access this offer. And you can find out more about Intuiflow and all the various areas that Chris was just explaining. Now, if you come up here, you'll be able to see a button that actually takes you through to Demand Driven Technology storefront. So let's go there now. So this is their storefront on Supply Chain Partners. Demand Driven Technologies is a Gold Partner Expert member. And as we can see, they have a lot of information on their overview section. So you can find out all about their business details and their credentials and more information about what their company does and about their software and opportunities. Now, you have massive publishing capability on your storefront. And so you can actually see what categories are relevant to Demand Driven Technologies and all of their services. So there's a lot of services that you can be discovering, particularly with the products and the technology that we were just going through just before. So I'll let you explore that. And then that's the event that Chris was talking about. So come here and check out that event, and that you'll be able to click on the registration link so you can register for that webinar. Now, there are many articles, wonderful articles that you can be exploring about demand-driven technologies and all of the areas that they go into. This area here with the videos, you're going to have so many excellent videos to go through. So they have so many wonderful case study videos so that you can have a look at what are all their other clients have experienced by using their software and all of their solutions. And again, all of the case studies, there's many case studies that you can be going through to find out more about what their business does and all of the benefits that all these other companies have been experiencing by using their software. We do have a large glossary. So Demand Driven Technologies has uploaded a large glossary of terms, which helps you to understand all the different terms and acronyms that they use within the way that they manage supply chains, etc. So let's now have a look at their podcast, because if you come onto podcast, you'll find Supply Chain Partners TV and podcast. And if you scroll down, so we broadcast, our listeners span across 19 different countries. And then you can see the podcast we made here. So let's have a look at that podcast. So we met with Eric Bush and the CEO of Demand-Driven Technologies, and we discussed, and you can see the podcast here, so you can listen to the podcast on Spotify, or you can watch the video here. So, and I'll let you know what we go through. So we're talking about how do supply chains cope in a VUCA world, and the way that we put our podcast together. You can see here how we've done it through the key highlights. So we actually explore the main challenges that manufacturing companies are experiencing and how the pandemic has impacted their organizations. We then walk through a real-life client example about how demand-driven technologies helped their clients. And then we talk about key lessons, and then we dig a bit further into the capabilities of the demand-driven technologies in the supply chain space. We welcome you to also download their white paper, Managing in a Supply Constrained Environment. Now, let's have a look at a few more events that are coming up. And so this is where you can also find different events that are coming up. So Supply Chain Partners, we have our Supply Chain Partners online events. And so we have group coaching events, the executive roundtables and the deep dive workshops. And we also have the education and networking events. And we have our virtual summits every second month, educational webinars, fireside chats, and our coffee break like today. We also have a members only introduction and referrals, and that's coming up in an hour's time, where we'll be meeting with our members. So I'm going to go through a couple of the events that we've got coming up. And within these events as well, that's where you'll also see Demand-Driven Technologies webinar that's coming up. So that's the same event that you can click through there and then register for that event. So let's now have a look at the next events that we've got coming up. So I just mentioned just then about our members only introduction and referrals. So this allows you, and it's weekly, so weekly on Fridays at 11 a.m. So that's in about an hour's time. That's the Eastern Australian Standard Time, like Brisbane, Australia time. So we're going to be discussing all the different things that you want to achieve, whether you want to achieve professional development requirements, if you have training and development requirements, or you may be seeking referrals to training providers. From a careers perspective, you may be seeking career opportunities, and you may want to seek referrals to potential employers, or you may have career opportunities that you would like to share and let our members know about. You may be seeking business and supply chain solutions, so it's a good opportunity to let us know what you're seeking, because our expert members go across a broad range of categories, and so we will most likely have an expert member who will be able to assist you. And you may be an expert member who may be seeking referrals to potential new customers who have the types of problems that our expert members can solve. All our expert members do solve specific problems, and that's why providing their expertise and their services and products to help industry to achieve their business and supply chain goals. Now, our next event coming up is on Wednesday, and this is our executive roundtable with Unchained Solutions. So this is about understanding reporting requirements of the Modern Slavery Act. So that'll be presented by Dr. Stephen Morse, the CEO of Unchained Solutions. So you would need to come here to register for this event. So we'll be covering about the issue of modern slavery and its impact on Australian business, and outlining that reporting criteria for the Modern Slavery Act, and also understanding the role of the directors when they're monitoring and reporting modern slavery. So you do need to come here. So if you would like to join, it's free to join Supply Chain Partners. You can just come along to this event for free. And also the next event that we've got coming up on Thursday, this is with Natrio Logistics. So it is the key considerations for selecting the right global logistics partner. So this is with 𝗕𝗏𝗶𝗵𝗶, the General Manager of Global Logistics, 𝗕𝗏𝗃𝗃 Logistics, and we'll be going through those key factors. We'll be explaining the role of global logistics in achieving a competitive advantage, those key factors, and particularly the impact in selecting the wrong logistics partner. And we'll be covering off on some global supply chain risks and issues that you may need to consider. You do need to register on Supply Chain Partners to attend this event. Now, next Friday, our coffee break is with Missing Link Supply Solutions. So Missing Link Supply Solutions are experts in MRO materials management. So that's the management of maintenance, repair, and operations materials. And we'll be discussing their 2 member offers. So they have a 1-day free capability uplift workshop and also a free health assessment for your materials master data. So come along to that. That's next Friday. And then at the end of the month, we have our Supply Chain Partners Virtual Summit. So we encourage you to come along to our virtual summit. It's a 6-hour event where you'll get to learn from experts, and also you'll have plenty of opportunities to network with our members and speakers and industry peers. We'll be having speed networking opportunities throughout the day. So we'll be covering off on business and supply chain risks, how to improve the efficiency of business and supply chain processes and operations, and how to improve the management, storage, and movement of inventory and goods, and how to better lead and develop and protect your people. So we have a number of speakers, and there's more yet to be listed here. So we welcome you to register for this event. Now, we've come to the end of our Supply Chain Partners Coffee Break. So thank you for joining our Supply Chain Partners Coffee Break today with Demand-Driven Technologies. Be sure to take advantage of their fantastic offer for Supply Chain Partners members by joining Supply Chain Partners for free. And as I was mentioning, in about an hour's time, we'll be having our Introductions and Referrals Networking meeting for Supply Chain Partners members. And so we hope to see you next Wednesday at our Executive Roundtable, the 22nd of February, about understanding reporting requirements of the Modern Slavery Act with our expert member, Unchained Solutions. And on Thursday, I mentioned about that fireside chat. And so that is with 𝗕𝗏𝗃𝗃 Logistics. And we'll be talking about the key considerations for selecting the right global logistics partner. And next Friday, our coffee break will be with Missing Link Supply Solutions. So please reach out to us if you would like to know more. So bye for now. And I look forward to seeing you next week.